Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief, where we invest with fighter pilot precision on a daily basis. Well, news overnight, and it's still rolling in with one election still too close to be called. But we do have to prepare that the blue wave might actually be here. So one of the elections was called yesterday, and again, the other one, the Democrat has declared victory already this morning. We'll see how that rolls out throughout the day. But today we're going to talk about specifically, excuse me, where you need to position your money in case the blue wave thing actually happens. I'm actually kind of surprised the futures are holding up as well as they are. And what really nobody's talking about, except for maybe Kramer a little bit, is the impact of taxes. You know, if you roll back to where we were in October, the thought was if there was a blue wave, we were going to
news on Ford.
A 10% drop in the market due to the increase in corporate tax rate. Not a whole lot of people are talking about that this morning. So we shall see. But specifically, we're going to talk about places that are positioned to go higher, even if the market does sell off a 5 to 10%. All right. So if you are catching us on a replay, make sure you click notifications as well, subscribe as well as the notifications bell. If you want to join us in person, we have a chat room and a Q&A window for us to communicate. Costs $25 a month. So come on in and join us. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back. Standard disclaimer applies. This is a financial education presentation. So you have to do your own due diligence before you act on anything you hear in this presentation. Full disclaimer information is available at ototnow.com. All right, make sure you have both windows open and all attendees selected. In the chat, you can see my recommendations for this morning. 3 longs, basically nothing short. The stuff that's selling off in the NASDAQ that's causing the NASDAQ to be down 1.5% or so is actually all big tech, which we're not going to short into that just because it's selling off a little bit. So let's see here. Let's go ahead down to our overview. Mission objectives for today: grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. So kind of a twofold thing. We're talking about growing our money, but we also need to pay some attention to protecting our money due to the fact that we could see a market sell-off due to increased tax rates. I think that that's got to start here soon. And I think the market may price that in pretty quick, but we'll see. Maybe we ignore it until the inauguration. Maybe we'll wait for the first tax bill to come out of the Democratic administration and see what it says before the market reacts. I don't know, but we shall see. All right, tactical objectives for today. Our long-term investor topic is going to be blue wave investments. Specifically, if you scroll down a little bit there, Q Clean, the number one, the clean energy ETF, which I have a lot of folks in. Grid is infrastructure. Marijuana is a theme that, you know, Mexico legalized last week. And of course, Canada legalized last year. So with both of our border countries where it's legal, if there's some form of either legalization or decriminalization in, you know, just shy of 20 states here in the US, I think that will go through the roof. Bitcoin, GBTC. Didn't talk about this a whole lot, but I did pull the trigger on some GBTC yesterday for some accounts, and I will do it for some more today. But I do think with 2 things changed with the Bitcoin scene. First of all, the Morgan Stanley put 146,000, I think it's $146,000 price target on something that's currently at 35,000. So that's a heck of a, you know, what's that, 4 or 5x type of move that they're projecting. And then secondly, the OCC, which I meant to look it up, the Office of Something Currency here in the US, is allowing banks to not necessarily transact in Bitcoin, but at least work with each other in cryptocurrency. So, banks work together in local networks in towns. If a farmer comes in and pulls out 300K in cash, they can work the cash balances amongst themselves there in their own city to help balance that out. And then, of course, the Federal Reserve comes in and is able to provide more money. Well, all of that behind the scenes stuff that works with banks, they're allowing the crypto scene to break into that. Well, that's interesting. And if, the standard settlement date on trades and transactions in the financial world has been a 2 to 3 days kind of transaction rate, well, if we start dealing in cryptocurrencies, at least the cryptocurrency crowd saying we can, your settlement date is, microseconds or milliseconds. So kind of a game changer if this thing is real. I made fun. I was a standard old guy, right? I made fun of it at first, poo-pooed it for a long time, and now I'm at least accepting that it's going higher. I don't know if it'll be around forever, so this is one of these, I'll still have a foot out the door. It's not a close your eyes and buy, which, Apple, whatever, Amazon, I mean, you can buy it, hold it, you really don't care what it does on a daily basis. Bitcoin's something you're gonna have to watch. So, but I'm in on it now, personal money, and in the book as well, through the Greystone Bitcoin Trust that we'll talk about here in a second. Another thing we'll talk about today is, again, DraftKings and bets, overall gambling under a blue wave, I think goes through the roof because we're going to need the tax revenue, right? So again, not necessarily because that's what everybody should be doing with their money. I'm not a sports gambler myself. I enjoy watching, don't really enjoy betting on it. I think the pros in Vegas probably have the best knowledge in the game, and I don't think I can beat them. I know a lot of people do, or a lot of people do it just to spike the entertainment value. Good for them. I'm happy they do as a DraftKings shareholder. So please go out, bet all the games. But I think we're going to need it from a revenue perspective. And again, that's largely the push behind marijuana too, is to legalize it and then tax it to provide revenue. Okay. Question of the day, we're going to do what are realized gains against tax season. So if you're trying to figure out your taxes, good on you. You're thinking about it already. But you can go back into your brokerage account. We'll talk about how you can find your realized gains for 2020 to help you know what the tax implications are. And if you're with me, if I manage your money, my job is to cause you tax problems, right? I'm supposed to make you a bunch of money. And when I do, that causes you to pay more in taxes. Okay, our flow today, long, short, open, short, long. We're going to do a market review, headline review. We're going to talk about those 6 long-term investments. We'll execute the day trade. Again, I have 3 longs. I don't have anything that qualifies short. And then we will get into the question of the day. Contingencies, if you have any issues, reach out to me at steve@ototnow.com. All right, let's take a look a little bit about where we are, where we've been, that sort of thing. We'll go over here and take a look. This again, the S&P 500. We had the big sell-off Monday. And then gained not quite all of it back yesterday, but kind of like half of it back. Nice big green day yesterday. When you zoom in a little bit on the last 5 days, that's what you can see here. Pretty decent move up, but a lot of negativity as the blue wave sinks in. Again, taxes, if the corporate tax rate moves from 21 back up to 30 or 35, that's significant. A lot of the gains that were made from when that was reversed in 2017 will have to be priced right back in. If it's not, then I will have to officially declare the market insane, if you will, and we'll have to figure out how to navigate that. Okay, for our day trades, here's how it's set up. You have MJ, JKS. I also had a DraftKings because I saw the early market action in that. So we have those options for our day trades once we get to that. Okay, let's take a look at the futures real quick, sharing out and refreshing the CNBC. The Dow has dropped in the red. Excuse me, allergy cough here in Austin. So that's what you have. Everything's in the red right now. Let's take a look at Asia. It's weird to have Asia first. Generally, I have EU first. Pretty mixed in Asia. EU up across the board. 3%. In England there. Pretty big move. Here's our numbers yesterday out of the U.S. markets. Bonds above 1%. When's the last time we saw that? I don't know. It took forever. Back above 1%. Hopefully that's that's here to stay. That would be nice. Oil has also been on a tear above 50. We haven't seen that in forever. If you remember 9 months ago, or actually 10 months now, the oil futures went to zero. You couldn't give this stuff away. So now back up to $50 a barrel. So, 11-month high due to the output cut there. So, all right. Gold and silver been on fire along with Bitcoin, again, as a store of value. So here you see your Bitcoin up a couple percent, up at 34,000. Again, we'll keep an eye on what's going on in Bitcoin land now. All right, for headlines, going to be almost all political, which we've really talked about. Payroll number was not good this morning. Mortgage demand refi demand has dropped, even though rates are still pretty much an all-time record low. There's your Bitcoin soaring above 35,000 and treasuries above 1%. So kind of talked about all of that. And yesterday, Micron, for the Micron investors out there, double upgrade. You don't hear that very often. Again, that's where they skip from hold all the way to buy. And then, there's overweight in between. So pretty good a move up there. All right, let's go ahead and, oh, that's hilarious. The banner you see at the top there. So there was we're going to ban these 3 Chinese telecoms. We looked at them yesterday, CHA, CHU, CHL, and then they said yesterday they weren't going to ban them, and then today they're back to banning them. I bet you Trump is lighting them up is what's going on there. All right, let's go over to Schwab, and we'll take a look at the 6 investing theme charts. And you will see, here's what I want to show you. So you have Q Clean Energy, by far number 1. Even you can buy it here at 72. This thing it has everything in it that the Democrats love. Tesla's in this. Tesla just got a price target increase to the bozosphere up in, above $800 a share. This is solar, wind. Everything you can think of that is clean goes into this. So good on them. It's been on a tear. It will continue to be on a tear, in my opinion. Grid is infrastructure. So we talk about infrastructure is going to get a lot of money. Again, this thing's already been kind of straight up. So a little bit tough to enter here. I'm not as bullish on that as I am on the Q Clean. MJ still gives you the entry point down here. Again, we'll look at it from a day trade perspective long today, but it's still pretty low at around that $15 a share. It's going to jump today. It's already at 16.5. This thing's probably north of 20 within a week or two, is my opinion. I don't think it's today necessarily, but it's on the move. It's going to be going higher. And you look at that chart, that's a better entry than the rest of these that are just basically already taken off. Bitcoin, again, the game changer is the banks are allowed to use it now, which is a legitimization of it that I don't see it going back now. So we'll see. I'm not super confident, but confident enough to start putting a decent chunk of change towards it. DraftKings, I've been in for a long time. It's above 50 today, even though it's only showing 47 yesterday. So gapping up significantly. And another way to play it, if you don't like individual stocks, you can go into bets, BETZ, which again is all of the online gambling, Golden Nugget, all those folks that came in. The GNOG has only been trading a few days and actually has not been on fire. You can see it there. So too new to really even consider. So if you're in it already, you got in at like $10. Now just looking for an exit, to be honest, on GNOG, and DraftKings is better in my opinion. They are a PR machine. You cannot watch a football game without getting slaughtered with DraftKings advertisements. Okay, let's take a look at TD Ameritrade. We'll get set up for our day trades. Again, we have 4 screens here. These are all longs. Won't draw the arrow. Ooh, Jinko Solar. We talked about marijuana. We haven't talked about Jinko Solar a little bit. Again, one of the better solar plays out there. Solar City's the other one, but Tesla bought them, so it's kind of within Tesla. And the last one is DraftKings. So give me a second to get set up for my own trading system here, and we'll get started. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to On Time, On Target, a play of the day. You have 4 screens in front of you. You have SPY all the way left on a 1-minute chart, and then we have 3 longs displayed. Again, even though the market's in the red, nothing really qualifies for the downside. So we're looking at 3 longs, MJ, which is marijuana, JKS, which is Jinko Solar on the clean energy play, and then DraftKings on the online gambling play. All are blue wave stocks that are poised to jump this morning. All right, you can see the market down 0.5%. Again, this is the S&P 500 here. We'll zoom in on these a little bit and look for an entry. If the market sells off, all of these might sell off. Look at that move. That was on buck move down in DraftKings. Still up 6%, so it's in the heart of our window. Again, 8% for Jinko Solar and then 6% for MJ. Let's look at MJ as the entry point here. Low of the day, 618. So if we went with a 20-cent stop, that's a 28 entry. So 1628 long is what we're looking at with a 20-cent stop. If it breaks below 1618, we'll reset that. I didn't quite catch it there myself when it flashed above 628. So again, staring at it. There we go. Let's take it 1630. 1630 is your entry point. 22-cent stop. We've got it long. We got the low of the day in there. Boy, looking over at Jinko Solar just took off. So we're into this with the 1618 stop for MJ. So I'll draw that down here. 22 cents to be 1652 is 1R. So all the way up. Nope, I must have done the math wrong. 1620. Ooh, we got a 12-cent stop. So a tighter stop than I anticipated. 1642. So bad math on the fly this morning. 1654 is our second R unit. And then our exit point, if you want to get that programmed in, will be 1666, which is off the screen there. So again, we're in MJ long at around 1630, depending on when you got it, with a 12-cent stop below the low of the day. Oh, wow. Let's look at Jinko Solar. So we've got that in. Get your stops in. That should be fine. Let's see. This move, that bar right there is a $2 bar. That thing is flopping around. Tough to get in and trade something like that because that's a little bit crazy there as far as this first minute, 71 to 69. I mean, almost two dollar bars there back to back. All right, DraftKings looks like it's sold off all the way down to 50. Wow. So your entry point here for a trade would have been about, oh wow, it's tough to get into this now. So can't really get into DraftKings. I do think it goes higher and ends up, but you're not going to have the math that justifies you putting a dollar stop into this. You'd have to set the stop down here at 50-50 or at, 50-50. And that's more of a dart throw than anything. So, all right, let's get back to our trade. We're above 2R, 1666, which is off the screen as our exit point. So have that programmed in. And then you're just going to simply wait for it. The market's not rolling over. The only time I would kill a long trade early is if the market just like striped down in red. So far, it hasn't done that. It's kind of holding steady here. So of course I say that and it starts to stripe, but we're up in the trade, which I like. I want to hold out for that 3R point. And when you look at 1666, where is that? It's not there. I want to go backwards and zoom out. Did it touch it this morning? Briefly, right? So I'm not sure I would really count this level of 1668. So really your high is around this 1659. So it looks like there's a seller here. So it may face some resistance. So we might not get there in the first few minutes. It might take us a little bit longer to get there, but I'll redraw the chart so you can at least see how close we are to the exit point. So again, have that programmed in and get ready to exit. Now, I know the question will come up. It's like, well, that's a long-term holding and I'm supposed to be buying it for long-term. It's like, you don't want to mix and match your trades and your investments. So when you take a trade, you enter it and you exit it like a soldier, right? So you execute your checklist and you're out. Now, if you subsequently later decide that you want MJ in your Robinhood account, then then do it. But don't take a trade and then go, you know what? I'm just going to hold this long term, because you're getting your philosophies mixed up. It's bad for discipline to do that. Okay. All right. Let's sacrifice DraftKings over here and take a look around. Let's see what's going on. Let's check out some big tech name. 3% off in Apple. Kind of expected that with the blue wave. Facebook 3% off. Checking out Google, down 2%. See if Amazon shouldn't be affected as much. 2% in Amazon. Let's check out our Chinese favorite name, Luckin Coffee. What do you think? Up or down? Well, gotta type it in right. Oh, hadn't really been affected that much. Okay. Let's see if Baba got affected on the Chinese delisting news. It was up big yesterday, so selling back off 3% down in Baba, and then KWeb probably in the red too, down 1% in KWeb. But I mean, come on, man, this thing screamed higher yesterday, so so not too upset with it being down 1% or so. All right, let's so in our trade, we're back almost to the entry point. So hang tough, hold strong, and let's see, get zoomed back in here a little bit. So have your stops in again, 1618 and 1666, and just let it go. All right, let's take a look around. Okay, Canopy, you got marijuana or MJ, which is what we're in for our trade, up 7% or so. Canopy Growth was a big marijuana name out there, is up a little bit. ACB is another one, that's Aurora Cannabis. Again, the individual names generally outpace the ETFs to the up and downside. DraftKings, we talked about, is one of our main things that it's gonna benefit. A blue wave, Q Clean, another one up over 5%. That's awesome. There's your Bitcoin that we talked about, up over 5% this morning. Banks are up, a little bit surprised about that. Don't expect the banks to do all that well under a Democratic blue wave, if that does happen today. Grid is another name we talked about of our big six that I had for you this morning. So again, pretty well spot on the call. Golden Nugget Online Gaming, we talked about. Prudential up 4%, kind of shocking about that. Insurance company. Okay, let's see what's going down. MongoDB, Twilio, Zoom, PayPal. These are all trade desks, all pretty well. Apple, pretty much your big tech names. Palantir actually bought more yesterday. I'm starting to like the entry point again, down here in the low 20s. So it was early morning. So somewhere, I don't know, maybe around in this area where I started buying again yesterday. So a lot of people have a lot of this. So don't load up. We're not saying go overweight, but if you don't have this or don't have a lot of it, you could plus up some here. Netflix, Shopify, this is like tech all the way down. Okay, let's go back up to the top. MJ still sitting about the same place for our trade. All right, so up in our trade, so just keep an eye on that. Pull that off to a side screen because I'm going to switch off of this and then go over to our question of the day. Okay. All right, tax season, realized gains versus unrealized gains. So I don't want to insult your intelligence on this if you're all over it, but let's just go ahead and go through it again because it's important you understand that. So in investing, you don't get taxed until you sell something. So until then, if you log in right now, go to either Schwab Alliance or advisorclient.com with TD Ameritrade, there will be a tab called cost basis. And click on the cost basis, and that will let you know whether you are up or down in the position. It'll tell you the average entry point, especially if you reinvest dividends on a monthly or quarterly basis. You could literally have 15 purchases, or if you've held a stock for years, you could have 50 purchases of different price points and different amounts as the dividends are reinvested. Well, what the cost basis does, and this is again an unrealized gain, is that averages that out. So if you just took the whole position and you went crack and sold it, that would tell you, how much you are up or down. And then off to the side of the cost basis for unrealized gains, stuff you haven't sold yet, it will give you a column that tells you long-term or short-term. Again, you have to hold something for a year before it goes from the short-term column over to a long-term game. And we don't get into the taxes, but they're taxed differently. Short-term is basically taxed as income. So if you're selling something in the short term, whether it's a day, our trade's up to 2 hour again, by the way, or whether you hold something 364 days, you're taxed as at your income rate, which is bad, right? From a tax standpoint. There's times where you need to sell, but there's also times if you're thinking about selling and doing some repositioning in the portfolio and you only have 10 days to wait until you kick it over to a short-term game. That's stuff I look at before I click the sell button for folks. So so you have that, and then once it goes over to a long-term capital gain, then you can sell and you're into the long-term capital gain structure, which is either 0%, depending on what you make, or 15% or 20, or if you're a high income folks, there's a 23 plus rate that you're hit with out there. So the more you make, like anything else, the more you make, the more you're taxed, even on your capital gains. So so that's before you sell, is unrealized. Realized is after you sell it. Then it becomes fact. Then it becomes known. And you can throughout the year, and I look at this all the time because I don't want to give somebody some inordinate tax problem. But like with Luck and Coffee, ton of gains, right? Going into the end of the year. It's like, I need to shave this position. So I'm going to take a little off at the end of December. Then I'm going to take a little off at the end of January. So you don't have the full tax bite of that situation. Again, that's only in taxable accounts. If I'm in an IRA, you can buy and sell all you want. You don't really care. There's a side story to that of wash sale does actually apply to IRAs. I tell most folks not even to worry about that. I worry about that. You don't need to worry about that. But so when you have realized gains and you pull it up, it will tell you exactly which, what the gain was. So if you have, say, 10,000 shares, let's say you have 100 shares of Apple and you sell 10 shares. Well, depending on how you have your settings set up, I use a tax lot optimizer. So I tell the, Schwab and TD Ameritrade to figure it out. So when I go to sell 10 shares, it picks the 10 shares based off of the highest cost basis. In other words, if I'm selling for a gain and Apple's at 130, 127, and I have shares that I bought at $100 and I have shares that I bought at $50, it'll sell the shares, 10 shares that I bought at $100. So it's a tax optimizer. So it's going to give me the smallest tax problem. Same thing in reverse. If I'm selling at a loss, it's going to sell the shares for the maximum loss. You can go in there and do it independently, but why? They have an algorithm set up for it. So just let them worry about it. What you generally don't want is the FIFO, first in, first out setting, which will always sell the shares that you've held the longest. And since most stuff is up, over time, or it shouldn't be in your portfolio. If you've held something for 10 years and it's at a loss, it's like, what are you doing? Not very good at investing, because you probably need to give up on that and move on. But if you have, a gain and a long-term sort of, gain, you don't want to sell your oldest shares because you're going to pay the most in taxes. You want to sell your newest shares because remember, when you pass away, they step up in basis. Whoever you pass it on to doesn't pay any taxes on it. So really need to be smart about that stuff. Again, there are settings to do that automatically. But anyhow, that's all I have for the realized gains. See if there's anything here from the key takeaways I didn't talk about. Yeah, you hear the term paper gains. Again, paper means unrealized. You haven't booked it, right? It's like being up at a table in Vegas. It's like it's not real until you gather the chips up and walk away to the cashier's cage, right? So, all right, well, good stuff. So let's look at the market, and the SPY's almost in the green today, or in the green already. I am actually going to go over to our trade real quick before I let you go. Okay, the trade didn't quite touch 16, our exit point. It got to the 2.7 R point, so we'll be a little bit patient for that, to wait for it to hit 1666 for our exit. But overall, when you look at the SPY, almost back to even. So again, maybe this is giddiness of a lot of folks out there, 51%, right, or 50%, wanting the blue wave to happen. We shall see. But market's kind of holding tougher than I thought it would. And again, 1665. We're almost there for the trade. So not going to, there it is, boom. and you're out of your trade. So got it before we went off air. I like it right at the 14-minute point. So with that, that's all I've got for you guys today. Good show this morning, and we'll be back at you tomorrow after we know the results. Well, hopefully we know the results, but there's probably gonna be challenges and stuff. So we may be talking election stuff tomorrow, or we may be moving on. We shall see. But with that, thanks for tuning in this morning, and we'll catch you next time.